founder sent me a proposal he received from a vendor a few weeks back. $40,000 for an AI chatbot on his website. I build these systems for a living, and the work he described should not have cost him more than $5,000. And part of what he was quoted for, he shouldn't have paid anyone. This usually happens because most business owners are pricing AI projects without any reference point. If you search on Google, you will find how much AI is costing Microsoft, Uber, or Zoom, but none of the search results will tell you how much it will cost for a business of your size. You ask your vendor how much it will cost, and they'll say it depends. I mean, yes, it depends. But if you don't have a reference point, you are going to accept whatever number lands in that proposal. So, how much does AI implementation cost? This video is the reference point. I'll give you four numbers, what each number will get you, and how you move from one number to the next. This video is for a company with 15 to 80 employees. Enterprise is a different number, so I'm not going to cover that in this video. And the third number is where most of the overcharging happens. Before the four options, we have a zeroth option where you don't even need to implement an AI project. You can think of scenarios like sending an email or scheduling a meeting, or if you want to record a meeting. So these are very standard use cases that every company has. These are generic use cases, and there are tons of off-the-shelf tools you can purchase. You have Intercom for customer support. You have Fathom and Fireflies for recording a meeting, for sending and scheduling an email. You can use Composio, N8N, Meet. There are tons of options out there. You don't need to get a vendor to implement a project for you. These are run-of-the-mill options, and the vendor will quote you $40,000, and what they will use behind the scenes is what you will get for about $200, $500 a month. The founder I was talking to you about, who was quoted $40,000, their use case would have been solved easily with Intercom. It would have costed them $200 to $500, and that would have been good enough for them. So if the problem is generic, buy an off-the-shelf tool. But if your problem is custom to your business, if you want a custom routing mechanism for your invoices, then you need to hire a vendor. And while this video is going on, keep your most challenging use case in your mind so that you'll be able to put yourself into which number, which slot you lie in. So now we come to the first number, which is automation with no AI. This will usually cost you about $2,000 to $4,000. This is when your data is moving between systems without any person touching it or retyping it. Think of it like an invoice is landing in your email and you want to enter it to your CRM, or when an order is placed, your customer should get a notification of order confirmation, or when an order comes, a notification should be sent to the fulfillment team and it should be added to your accounting tool. So when it's the same step every time without any judgment call, that is when you lie on this step, automation without an AI. A large share of what gets sold as an AI project is in this row. So there's no AI in this. And if we have been quoted $15,000 with AI powered in the title, and the job is just moving data from one tool to another, the real number is this one. And in practice, this is where most companies should start, because this is the manual work that your team is doing right now, copying orders, sending it to inventory, counting, and everything. So these are boring stuff that you can easily automate, and you don't need AI for it. You can use Make, you can use N8N. So there are tons of solutions out there. You will need to hire a vendor to implement these solutions for you, but you don't need to involve any AI in it because there's no judgment call. Then we have the third number, which is automation with a little bit of AI in it. So you can say this is when your team is reading an incoming mail and it's deciding whether it's a complaint or a positive review, or when it is sorting documents in the right folders or tagging support tickets. So these are cases where you can use an automation, but there's a little bit of judgment involved. So the system will take a judgment call and decide how to proceed ahead with this task. And these will typically cost you about $3,000 to $5,000. The extra cost over tier one is not because of the AI. It's because of the testing that's involved. Because when a system is wrong, even 5% of the times, it's okay if you're just tagging support tickets. But when you're routing invoices, then even the 5% is a challenge. So finding out where the error lies, reducing that error until it's one that you are ready to live with, is what the extra $1,000 or $2,000 are for. Then we have the third bucket, which is AI agents. And these will cost somewhere about $7,500 and above. Nowadays, every vendor is calling themselves an AI agent company, and an agent is something that does the entire job and not just a single step of the process. So it will handle your incoming invoice, it will flag any mismatch if it's any there, and it will raise an approval email. If there is any discrepancy or any issue, it will even send you a message on Slack, on WhatsApp, and ask you for your approval. Basically, an agent is where there are multiple steps involved, multiple tools, and your company's own documents are involved, and a person in the loop is important for the process to go through successfully. So the chatbot from the start of this video sits on the line between this tier and the ones before it. Because a chatbot that answers your common questions, what are your hours, how to return works, that is typically under $5,000. Or you can use Intercom or buy any off-the-shelf tool out there. On the other hand, a chatbot that answer from your documents, your return policy, your order history, your contracts, that lies in this tier because it has to find the right documents, pull the right answer, know when it doesn't know something, raise an approval email, ask you for approval. So it's the same word, but two different products. And the difference between the two is roughly $5,000. And I've put a plus mark over here because the cost is dependent upon your data, not the AI. So if you have clean records, you have clean data, your order history, inventory, purchase orders, and everything, it is well organized, then you will lie at the bottom of this range. But if you have 10 different spreadsheets with different naming conventions, then you will go higher end of this range. This is because most of the effort will go into handling the edge cases in your data, the duplicate records, the fields, the different people who would be using your platform, and so on. And this row is where most of the overcharging happens. Because every vendor out there is using agents because it's in trend. Everyone is talking about agents. And for most businesses, for most use cases, you can get by without any AI involved. You can just use the regular automation. But because they slap the label agent on top of it, you will be paying more than $5,000 to $10,000 extra. And in a lot of cases, it's not that the $5,000 or $10,000 extra would lead to a better out. It may even lead to an inferior product because there's a judgment involved. And because, as I mentioned, you need to handle the edge cases and everything. If they are not handled properly, you will end up with a subpar product. Then we have the fourth number, which is multi-agent systems. These will cost you north of $10,000. These are several of AI agents working together. So one will read your documents, one will check your data, one will talk to the customer, and they will hand work from one to the other agent. And for most of the companies between 15 to 80 employees, you don't even need a multi-agent setup because this setup is more complicated than the single AI agent system, which means there will be more edge cases. The single purpose system comes first. You need to make sure that it works. The system needs to prove itself. Only then does it make sense to move to a multi-agent system. And if any vendor is skipping the sequencing and is directly jumping to multi-agent system rather than to a single AI agent or an automation with a little bit of AI, then the vendor is optimizing for their invoice and not your operations. So this board will tell you which row your code lies in, whether your problem belongs on any row or not, whether if your problem is a generic problem, you can buy off the shelf tool and you're done. If your work follows the same process every time, you can go with tier one. Whatever the proposal says in front of you, choose automation with no AI, even with closed eyes. If there is a judgment call involved in the middle, there's sorting, tagging, or routing, then you need to go with tier two. If your work needs your own documents, then you need AI agents. $7,500, that's justified because the job is that big. So I've put the questions that you can ask your AI vendor in a one-page checklist, what to ask in the demo, what the red flags are, what AI powered actually means, what it doesn't mean. The link is in description. It's free. And I put out one of these breakdowns every week. So if you're looking for AI for your business operations, for SMBs, subscribe if that's you.